Chandrasekhar or Chandrasekhar?
The second one.
Chandrasekhar.
Yeah.
I can't believe everybody doesn't ask that.
There was a young comic who introduced me. I can't remember where it was, but he had 5 tries, and the 5th try, he got it. But the first 4, he did not.
Live on stage, he did 5 tries.
I mean, he would stop at J. He would say, Chandrasekhar.
Say what?
Chandrasekhar. Chalasar. He said Chalasar. I was like, what's wrong with you? I mean, I wrote it out phonetically for him.
Sometimes the C's and S.
And he just would freeze.
Quiet, please.
Most people, including the people who introduced me on stage, seem to just realize that they don't know how to pronounce it.
At that exact moment.
Uh-huh.
In 4, 3, 2.
The Apple Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense, episode number 25. I'm Jeff Parker.
And I'm Stittle.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, Super Troopers director, co-writer, and star Jay Chandrasekhar.
I'm very excited to talk to Jay.
It's National Onion Ring Day.
Where do you find these?
It's also National HVAC Day.
I feel like you specifically find 2 that couldn't be farther apart on the spectrum.
It's not accidental.
Not accidental. Onion Ring Day and HVAC Tech Day.
Yeah.
I feel like if I'd known this before, I would have brought onion rings for my HVAC guy.
And I would have tried some sort of heater because I'm freezing out here.
It's summertime. It's the middle of June. What's wrong with you?
I don't know. I have no idea, but I'm cold.
I didn't know the HVAC techs get a day. Now I feel bad that I didn't do anything for them. Should you call them on that day? What happens if they're not there on that day?
Maybe they take that day off. I don't know. I did have a friend in high school who paid no attention to anything in classes. He sat around at lunch and almost talked to no one. He was not super social.
Okay.
I saw him.
This is somebody you know, right? This is an autobiographical conversation.
I still know him.
Okay.
It just looked like he was going nowhere in life.
Yep.
At our 5-year reunion, he was the most successful person there.
Jeff Bezos.
He owned and ran an HVAC company.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, it was massively successful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He was the whole time he was just staring at vents and grates.
Who knows what he was doing, but he knew how to do that
Condensers and
really well.
evaporators. Yeah. Well, I mean, you think about it, everybody needs HVAC.
Yeah.
It's either hot or cold. There's nowhere in the U.S. that it's just temperate all the time. Hawaii, maybe?
How's your week going?
Well, now that I'm thinking about HVAC, it's gotten a lot different.
Sure.
Now, this week's been good. I took a bread making class.
Oh, that's cool.
I learned to make bread the right way.
And what kind of bread did you make?
We made basically baguettes. Just
basically
baguette. Baguettes and eppies. I cut a baguette into an epi. It's the same bread. You just cut it differently. And it was a ton of fun. And it's literally the best bread I've had in a long time.
Are we going to get some samples of that?
Yeah, you have some here now. You get to try some whenever you want.
That's very exciting.
And then we made butter. We put the butter on. We made jam.
Churned some butter?
We did. We actually churned some butter.
Did you put on your overalls, your farmer's overalls?
I did. First of all, how dare you, sir? No, I was making bread. I wasn't going out. It wasn't Thursday night. Me going out to WeHo wearing my overalls. Turns out bread is really, like most things in food, you need very few ingredients of the finest quality. You need to know what the fuck you're doing. And then you get magic that just comes out.
Bread is magic.
There's like 5 ingredients, and then the stuff that comes out the other end is just spectacular.
My friend Ron, who I hike with in the mornings, brought me biscuits.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about this.
That his son Zach made.
Are this like the Ted Lasso biscuits?
Oh my, they were so
amazing,
incredibly great. And again, I'll just say it, bread is magic.
Exactly.
This would be normally the part I would say, now let's get to our headlines.
Yeah, we're not going to do it today though,
let's
right?
Skip
We got
the
Jay
headlines.
here.
Jay Chandrasekhar is here.
He's staring at us.
And we better get going because he's got things to do.
Why did he do this, by the way?
Because he's the kindest human who's ever lived. Yes.
Thank you.
Let's get right to that. Let's play some music and we'll come right back with Jay. Jay Chandrasekhar is a writer, director, actor, and stand-up comic, best known for his work with the hilarious sketch troupe Broken Lizard. Among the feature films he's directed are Super Troopers, Beerfest, Club Dread, and The Slammin' Salmon. As an actor, he's appeared in films such as I Love You Man and The Baby Makers. He's also a prolific television director, although more immediately as a member of the Writers Guild, he's on strike. One of the more contentious points of that strike is the producer's right to use artificial intelligence to help create scripts. As if he weren't busy enough, Jay has created an extremely useful app called Vouch, which we'll talk about in a moment. What most people may not know about Jay is that he's both a devoted, loving husband and an involved, thoughtful father. He's also such a good friend that he shows up very early on a morning when he could be golfing to be on his friend's podcast. So I'm extremely happy to welcome my friend, Jay Chandrasekhar.
That bio is pretty good. A devoted, loving husband. I like that part.
I knew you would.
I mean,
because you are actually a true family guy. I don't think the world knows that.
I'm not going to say that part's not true.
This guy loves his family.
Wow. What kind of animal would I be if I didn't?
I think you were raised by good people.
I was.
What are some other movies you've acted in that you didn't direct?
Well, we just made a movie. Broken Lizard just made a movie called Quasi. You said I Love You Man, right?
I did. Why did I think you were in I Love You Man?
I was.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why.
Well, this is off to a great start, isn't it?
I was in a movie called Plan B. I played a pharmacist who won't give the Plan B drug to this young pregnant Indian girl because he doesn't approve.
The chuckles just come off.
Anytime you restrict medical care, that's always funny.
Well, it was about I imagine your mother wouldn't like me to do this, that kind of thing. It was like an Indian kind of opinion.
Is that an Indian thing?
Indians are a fairly conservative bunch, as evidenced
I don't know.
by the fact that there are 2 Indians running for the Republican nomination right now. My joke that I do about Indians on stage is they're brown supremacists. They dig the racial stuff.
Okay, good.
Not this Indian, though. I'm one of the good ones.
I want to talk about the writer's strike.
Yeah.
Which is, largely the reason you're able to be here, I understand, because you're not doing anything else.
I'm not.
You said, well, tell me about the podcast. I told you about the podcast, and I said, will you come on? And he said, you were only available from 8 to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, unless we needed you on the weekends.
I've got a lot of free time right now. It turns out that writing for money was something I did all the time.
You golf a lot, too.
I golf every day.
That's impressive.
That's very impressive.
Thank you. The life of leisure. But I've been writing stand-up, and I've been writing a novel, which I'm just about done with. So I'm not like, I know the Writers Guild, I'm just not writing screenplays.
It always seems like when the Writers Guild strikes end, there's like a glut of screenplays.
I'll have one of those. I just won't admit to writing it.
You just won't admit to when you wrote it.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. It's a good one, too. I'm not writing it with my good friend Kate Angela. It's like a golf trip movie set in Scotland that basically turns into something like The Hangover. So I will be in that movie.
Which will be Hangover-like.
It'll be Hangover-esque, but I'm not writing it.
The part of the writer's strike that I want to talk about is the AI, because this is a tech show. They're very concerned about AI writing.
Yeah.
Do you go to the line and pick it?
No.
You haven't done that?
No.
They don't assign you a shift?
Well, I think they have there's a captain for all of us, but my captain doesn't seem to have my phone number. So I was told, the captain's going to call. And I was only told this by my friend Kate Angela.
Sure.
And I never got a call. And I'm like...
You're sure you have the same captain as Kate?
I guess not. I think because I'm a director, they get confused and then they don't include me. And then, I don't like to go anywhere I'm not invited. So
But your name has to be on the list.
You would think. I've written 10, 12 screenplays, 15 screenplays.
They're probably giving you health insurance. Your name is probably on the list.
You're darn tootin' they are.
The captain doesn't know how to pronounce it, so he just won't call. He's just embarrassed.
So do you have any thoughts about AI being used to write television and films?
I think that at the end of the day, I resent it when the Netflix computer robot suggests a movie to me. I'm like...
That's not even AI,
I know, but I'm like, who the hell do you think you are? Sit quietly, robot. Don't you tell me what movie you think I'll like, because often they're dead wrong. And I'm like,
oh, sure.
Shut up. That reaction is how I would feel if somebody tried to pass off a computer-written script to me.
Right.
It's like, shut up.
But if you don't know who wrote it and it's good...
You really believe that I want to sit here and watch a movie written by a computer?
Well, they want you to punch it up. They're saying the writers don't want to have to punch up some draft some AI put out.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't have to, I suppose. Now, obviously, that's a little head in the sand.
If you were contractually obligated to a series, you would have to, and somebody brought in...
Who would bring it in?
The robot.
The robot producer? By the way, no one's ever going to bring it in who has any sense, because an AI is never going to be able to do the kind of writing that you do. The kind of writing that any good TV show does or any good movie does, which is write something that is not expected. The way large language models work is they're predicting what's the most likely next word in the sentence. It's going to give you lovely real estate copy. It's never going to give you the kind of writing that you do.
Well, my friend Hayes MacArthur, who I do a podcast with, which is unreleased so far, but we're about to release it. It's called Mustache Tales. He had asked the AI to write jokes by Woody Allen, Richard Pryor, and me, Chandrasekhar. And the Woody Allen one was pretty good, and the Richard Pryor one was off. And the one about me, I was sitting on a toilet talking philosophy, and I was like, I guess I get it. I guess the computer thinks I traffic in smart toilet humor. And I was,
you have IBS.
maybe. I was just like a little insulted, but a little like, it's pretty close, I suppose.
But not funny. Have you found any of the jokes to be funny?
They weren't bad.
Oh, really?
They were not
You're
good.
using better AI than I'm
They
using.
weren't good.
What were you using? Do you know?
It's my friend Hayes was using it, and he was mistakenly calling it Chat GPT. And I'm like, you're being recorded, you fool.
He's not the only one that screws it up.
But whatever. I mean, I know it's an issue, and I don't want it to be. How embarrassing would it be to be like dancing to a hit song some computer wrote? I just gross to me. I know people do it. It's mathematics. Like music is mathematics. Comedy is also mathematics. It's rhythm.
It's rhythm.
Mathematics. Yes. The argument against it from us, our perspective is, in order for an AI to write a Broken Lizard movie, you put all the other scripts in, and then it'll kick one out, and you're like,
except it won't. I mean, that's still
okay. But
again, what it's going to give you is sort of like the sum of all the Broken Lizard scripts divided by the number of Broken Lizard scripts.
Yeah, this is where Jeff and I still disagree.
You're going to get really something that's quite average.
Well, right, but it may be able to do all the early legwork. And the truth is if you want to pay me for each of those scripts you put into that computer, then pay me my full rate for it and pay me 8 times what, You can't just take the material that I wrote and put and then spit it back out.
That's what everyone feels, photographers and artists.
This is a challenge, though, right? Because as a human, I can consume all your content. I can consume all the Broken Lizard content and then go write something that's influenced by that and other things, right? And
yes.
How do you figure out attribution? I think that's the big question is how do you figure out attribution for these things and influence? And I think there's a path there, but not let's just ignore this thing. Where Jeff and I certainly disagree is
it doesn't actually work like a human brain.
It's going to get better. I'm not saying it's going to deliver world-class content, but I do think it will get you a good chunk in the direction.
It's really hard for a human to deliver good content.
Of course. But I think it's going to get you a good start.
I think writing a good story is as hard as writing anything.
Of course. Oh, without a doubt.
You're right. But the hardest part of writing a good story is the first draft. And it's why I love being a writer.
It's the story beats, though. I mean, the beats you choose.
Mm-hmm.
And an AI, I don't think, is going to have that ability for a very, very long time, if ever.
I mean, the great thing about Hollywood is you run into people all the time who are writing a screenplay or thinking about writing a screenplay, and most of them never write the first draft.
Sure.
Because they
require sitting down and doing a lot of work.
They come head to head with it, and they're like, oh my God, it's so much work. And then they read their first draft, and it's terrible. You know who else's first drafts were terrible?
Everyone's.
Mine. Yes, that's
sure,
right.
Of course.
So
aren't they supposed to be? I mean,
but they don't know that.
Yeah.
Because they've never gotten to draft 2. And the better you get at it, the more time you spend on those beat sheets and outlines. So that when you write it, that first draft, you're like, when Kate and I didn't write that golf movie, we were like, this draft's pretty good.
Yeah.
And it was. And now we've not written 5 drafts or 5-6 drafts, and it's pretty damn good.
That's awesome.
But because we're high end.
Yeah.
Like we are, right?
Well, you've done it so many years.
But if you take a first draft from a computer, right, you still need somebody like us to take it and fix it. Somebody who understands.
I don't think you're going to get a draft. I don't think you're going to get a draft from a computer that's going to be of any use.
I mean, at least parts of, though, right?
I think he's right. I think that it will be of value.
On the radio, you have to say, I think CJ's right.
I think CJ's right.
Nodding with your head is not that useful.
I think CJ's right. I think it would be useful. I think you still need somebody like us to deal with it, and we're not willing to deal with it.
I think you need somebody like you to create it. I don't
You're
think.
Well, right now you do.
So what if you flip it around though and say instead of you dealing with it, because I think that's a terrible proposition of like, here's this piece of shit that something cranked out. Please make it good and funny, right? That's not a world that I'm interested in. But if you put the tools into your hands and say, hey, I'm going to build this
Even
thing.
before you get to the point of please make it funny, though.
Sure.
You've got to write, the bones of the story have to be a good drama before you even get to the comedy.
The problem is those of us who actually write screenplays love that we're in a club of people who actually write screenplays and do things. And so the concept that AI would create a bunch of people who are like, I have a first draft, you're like, we don't want. That's the thing we really don't want, is all these lazy people who can't quite get it done, getting it done. And then it being handed to us.
Get it done, though. I still think that this is maybe where I agree with him, is like, they're just going to maybe think they're getting closer, but it's like you buy a typewriter and you go, well, now I can write a script. Well, no, you can put characters down on a page cleaner. It doesn't mean you can write a script.
Can you imagine all the poor agents who are going to get these submissions?
No,
that are just
there's going to be an AI on the front of it that picks them all out. problem solved.
That's right. And the shame that we will put actors through, if, you're reading it, you're in an AI movie. Are you a totally awful hack?
Unless it's good.
And that will be very powerful.
You can talk to the robot agent.
That's right.
I think you'll probably get maybe 2 or 3 of them, and then every producer in the world will realize, oh, these are bad.
Yeah.
This is not the way to go.
I won't go see one.
But you won't go see one for different reasons. You won't go see one because you want to stand up for writers.
Well, I also resent robots.
Generally.
Yeah, generally.
You don't have like a robot vacuum at your house or any of that stuff?
Absolutely not.
No.
But I
small people that do that for him.
I see those robots rolling around with the packages, and my first instinct is to kick it over.
The pizza.
Whatever's in there. I want to kick it over and watch it roll its wheels around.
Like a turtle. It's your little robot turtle.
That's right.
Flip it on its back.
But if I do that...
Do you get them in your neighborhood?
They'll not my neighborhood, but down the hill.
Because you live in too ritzy of a neighborhood.
Yeah, of course. There are a lot of robots in that thing. It's a gate, goddammit. And, if I kick that robot over, they'll start arming it, and soon it'll be RoboCop. Eventually it's going to be RoboCop.
Well, no, they'll put wheels on more sides so that no matter how you tip it over, it just keeps rolling.
They'll have a little stinger.
They'll figure that out.
They'll AI will know I'm about to kick it, and it'll shoot a little arrow into me. They'll do that.
It's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to make it so you can't stop it.
It's going to screw up your script when you go kick it over. They're all interconnected.
That's right. I think the writers have nothing to worry about.
So that shouldn't be on our list.
No, if I were a part of the alliance, forget the writers. If I were on the other side of the negotiation, I would make a big deal about how, I tell you what, we're going to meet you more than halfway. We're going to give you the AI thing. We won't do AI scripts. You give us everything else, and we'll give you the AI thing, and we'll call it a deal.
I think we all know that issue is a total silliness one. It's just on there to be thrown away.
Other writers I've talked to don't think it's silly at all. They think it's very serious.
These are writers who've actually written scripts?
Writers who are friends of yours.
Really?
Yeah, professional writers who run TV shows, especially. An AI in no time soon is going to be able to do what they can do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, okay. I mean, maybe they have that opinion.
It's still fascinating to think about the tech helping, though. No, I love that you're saying you won't use it.
He doesn't have a vacuum.
Anywhere. I know.
How do you vacuum your house? Or your maid does. One of your maids does it.
She does it.
Good. Okay. I should have thought of that.
I employ humans, Jeff.
No, sure. I get it. I get it.
I won't use the self-checkout at CVS.
But that's a human. That's you, the human.
They're taking jobs from people by creating checkout robots.
So you go to Amazon,
and eventually those people are going to crawl in my window. I do not want...
Why are they going to crawl in your window?
Because they're unemployed. Because of the damn robots.
There's other things we can put them to use to do.
Building more robots?
You know how many people were required? Yes. You know how many people were required to work on the farms in 1800? Like 83%. Yeah. You know how many people were working on the farms by 2020? 1%.
Yeah.
Sorry, I brought it up.
Why? Because I got it.
It was less dramatic than I thought. Less dramatic than I thought it was going to be.
It's like, I know. I still fucking hate the robots.
So we find other things for these people to do. You wouldn't have known there was going to be this massive transportation industry thing in the 1920s or whenever it was. Everybody went to work making cars, and in the 1980s, when everybody started making these things called websites, or was that in the 90s?
Sure, 90s.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
There's going to be stuff for these people to do.
I mean, you're still benefiting from robots, right? Unless you drove a 50-year-old car, I guarantee you the welds on it were done by a robot.
I know that, but it's a little bit as long as it's not my robot.
You don't want to be close to it, right?
That's
you don't want to see it. Yeah. This is the conversation I had 2 weeks ago with one of my really good friends, who's a devout carnivore like I am. We were talking about like if we had to wrestle the cow and kill the cow, and I was like, well, yeah, of course, I'm eating the cow. That's a 1-for-1. I was a vegan for 4.5 years. I was still okay killing a cow, and he's like, couldn't do it. There has to be that gap, that sort of cognitive dissonance between him and the animal.
I don't think that's much of a gap. When I go to a restaurant and
you don't want to see it.
When I order it, I'm putting a hit out on a cow.
Sure.
And it feels like I'm putting a hit out on a cow.
There's a fish sushi restaurant in Chicago where they brag that it's so fresh you pick the fish out of the tank, and when they put it on your plate it's still twitching,
still moving,
and you're like, that's rubbing it in, guys.
Yeah, sure. No, that's now you're just a bully.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, robots, I get it. What do you want from me? I don't like robots.
No, in no form whatsoever.
I am intrigued by the concept of a sex robot.
Okay.
Like if you could build me like my exact type woman at like the exact age I would want, and she read the New York Times and would discuss it with me and give me blowjobs, I would.
I know your wife. You have that.
right. I want to build another one, and I thought about it. And I'm like, I don't think I'd have to hide her somewhere in the house. My
just like a Roomba, it just goes into the room and charges.
Wife would
docks itself.
Not be okay okay with that. Then I'm like, what if she wants some stud dude? And I'm like, I don't think I could handle her getting, drilled by a stud robot. I just don't know.
It's okay for you, but not for her.
Well, there you go. Right there you go. That's the problem.
I can't have that robot to you until Thursday. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about it.
How do you feel about like self-driving or assisted driving cars?
I don't trust robots enough to drive me around.
Yeah, okay.
And whenever there's a single accident up in San Francisco from Tesla, I'm like, see?
Well, but that's Tesla. Those really don't work. Have you been in a Waymo?
No, but I at the end of the day, there's no way I'm letting a robot drive me. There's just absolutely no way.
What about
we're nothing alike.
The left half of the bell curve of drivers that are just fucking terrible. Wouldn't you want to see them in a self-drive or assisted driving car? Like, maybe not you, because you're a good driver and you're attentive and you're paying attention. But those fucking idiots put in a better car.
Right. I guess I hear you on that. But I mean, generally, I've only been in one accident where somebody was driving me when I was 10.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And it,
that's impressive.
It was fine.
Made a big impression.
Well, I remember it. The guy's name was Vern.
Oh, you're still a little angry with Vern.
No. He just, somebody turned and took a left turn in front of him.
Okay.
He drove me to school every day.
Vern did?
Yeah.
Oh my.
They stopped having a bus for us, and so I basically took a cab to school every day.
Dad was a surgeon or a doctor?
Lung disease specialist, and Mom was a radiologist.
So you had a driver for young
I had a driver.
Wow.
And Vern crashed.
Black and white doesn't like
That's
robots.
absolutely lovely.
And Vern crashed.
Learned a lot about Jay today.
I'm a brown supremacist. Look,
You sure are. I didn't realize how much. Who were your comedy writing inspirations? What was the inspiration for Super Troopers?
Up in Smoke.
Oh, it's a good movie.
Certainly, and not Police Academy, because I didn't like, as a child, well, to be honest, I've still never seen Police Academy because...
Well, that would make it less of an inspiration.
It looked wrong.
Yes.
Like, I looked at it as a kid and the hats were cocked and they were making boop, beep, boop, beep, funny noises. And I'm like, those don't seem like real cops to me.
So you did see it?
No, I saw the trailer. When we made a cop movie, I said, we're going to grow mustaches. Everyone's got to lift weights. We're going to get buzz cuts. We're going to look like real cops. And the funny part will be the way we behave.
Sure.
Up in Smoke, because we were smoking weed 7 days a week at that time, Up in Smoke is the great stoner movie. I would say all of our movies are stoner movies because we wrote them early phases stoned. Eventually, you have to write sober and get the structure down. But I feel like that opening scene of Super Troopers has it's not the same as Up in Smoke, but it's in the world of it.
Oh, dude.
In the world.
I've said this to you before. I think that's the greatest depiction of someone being stoned I've ever seen. I think your obituary in the first paragraph, if it doesn't mention the first 20 minutes of that movie, has totally missed you. The jump cuts with the police car is one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen on film.
I appreciate that. And I like to contemplate my obituary because I think you're right. I think they should mention that.
It's a high bar. You've done some really cool things. That has got to go down as one of the great moments in cinema. Battleship Potemkin, Stroller on the Stairs, Psycho Stabbing in the Shower, Kaiser Soze, the end of Casablanca, and the opening of Super Troopers.
We've been dining out on that scene ever since, for sure. No doubt.
Yeah, it's incredible. Any other inspirations? Python? Anybody else?
Well, Python for sure. I mean,
Beyond the Fringe, do you go back that far or just Python?
No. Python, they were obviously a 5-man English comedy group out of Oxford and Cambridge. And, we sort of eventually structured ourselves that way too. We're a 5-man group out of Colgate, and they made movies. We thought we'll make movies. It was they are named Monty Python. I named the group Broken Lizard to kind of Python begets lizard. I wanted people to think of that.
Why is the lizard broken?
There's no reason.
Okay.
There's just the lizard is broken because it has 2 syllables. It was a syllabic ripoff of Monty Python. Broken Lizard, Monty Python.
I never knew that. That's pretty cool.
We've now made, I think we've made eight movies. To some degree, we're the fish to their Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
And I love the Dead.
Sure.
And I love Python. So I'm sure there's some purists who are like, fuck Broken Lizard.
It's so different.
You know what we are? We're just...
It's so American.
We are what we are to that generation who grew up and saw us. We are a version of what Monty Python was to us. Yes, it's different.
I suppose.
It's different.
It's so not British. You're so not imitating Python. You're so your own thing.
Totally true. But in the last film we made called Quasi, it's a 12th century French political thriller. I play the King of France. There's a pope. There's a hunchback.
Sure.
There's blood. There's British accents. And there are people with swords. I mean, it's a full-on. When we were in the scenes, we're like, this feels like a Lost Python movie, even though it's different.
All right, now you know the reason I'm asking you your inspirations.
No.
Do you owe those people any sort of royalty, as you would like AI to pay for that inspiration?
No, of course not. You can look at so many commercials are clearly Super Troopers influenced. So many movies. People send them to me. They're like, we're hoping to make Super Troopers in a blank in a box store.
So a human doing that is fine. It's the computer when the computer ingests all of your scripts. Your movies.
There's rip-off and there's homage. Mm-hmm. And rip-off is when somebody uses the same exact uniforms and does another cop show that's obviously the same uniforms as we used, and they said it in Reno. Like that's
you think Reno 911 is a ripoff?
Oh, is that what you took from my sentence?
I don't know. I just want. I think
now that you brought it up,
did you direct the Reno 911?
Hell no.
You didn't. You wanted nothing to do with any of it.
No, we were not asked. They just stole the uniform colors and the looks and the sunglasses, and they're like, it's like that, but it's
not really
TV.
like that.
By the way, they did a really good job. Had they had blue uniforms, you wouldn't be hearing me talking about it right
because
now.
The uniform colors.
I would have called it homage because it would have been homage. But the imagery of it was
totally.
So much so that many people called me and said, "Congratulations on getting a TV show. Why didn't you just name it Super Troopers a TV show?" And I'm like, "We got nothing to do with it." So that's ripoff. Homage is I would say that the cops in one of those Seth Rogen movies where he did it with Bill Hader, they were like doing donuts and they blew something up. They were cops. What's that great Jonah Hill, Michael Cera movie? Superbad.
Superbad, yeah.
Oh, sure.
The cops
Superbad's a good movie.
in Superbad reminded me of us, and I would call that homage.
Sure.
Seth Rogen's not a ripoff artist.
No. Canadian. Probably saw Super Troopers a lot.
Oh, yeah, sure he did.
Probably grew up on it.
Yeah, but he understands the difference.
It's interesting to extract from that you can gauge it from the output and not the input, right? You're saying you look at the content, like you look at Reno 911 and you go, well, if these two things were different, I don't care about the inputs. The output tells me.
That show is super funny. I've watched it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're excellent comics. I mean, that's not the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is, what are you telling the audience? How are you trying to get them to watch your show? Through originality or through borrowed imagery?
Interesting.
At what point does homage turn to ripoff?
Well, it's sort of the sort of thing you know it when you see it.
I was just going to say, this is literally the Supreme Court's definition of, what is it? Not profanity.
Profanity,
pornography, right? Pornography.
That's right, pornography.
We know when we see it.
You know it when you see it. There are people in the stand-up comedy world who flat out steal jokes. I've seen it happen.
Sure.
A lot of people are like, I've watched this comic named Rory Scovel. I watched him do a set at a golf tournament I went to for it was Matt Walsh's golf tournament. He was in Veep, and Scovel went up and he did this super confident set, which was hilarious. And when I do stand-up, my character, which is what you kind of do when you're a stand-up, is super confident. And I said to him, I'm like, you and I have a similar performance style. It's a super confident kind of guy. And he goes, yeah, that's my thing. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I watched more of his stuff and I'm like, I bet I could do things in this world. He took it to places that I...
Took it farther than you take it?
No, he just took it to another place. And I look at it and I'm like, oh, I could see why I could be successful in other places that are not exactly what he's doing. But you're like, I'm inspired by Rory Scovel. He did an entire performance in a German accent, an hour and 10 minutes in a German. And I said to him, like, what were you thinking? He goes, I just sort of went down the road and then there I was.
Once you're there.
I was like, wow, you're much more courageous than me.
Wow.
When I think about what he inspires me in that way, I'm like, the courage is what inspires me. I'm not going to do a Rory Scovel joke. I'm just going to try to be a little more courageous. I'm not going to do it in German accent because I'm not that courageous.
I've seen you do stand-up. You're an excellent stand-up.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It was quite a nice surprise because I've seen a lot of friends. I've gone and seen a lot of friends do stand-up and gone, oh, you do stand-up.
The way you knew, you should have known that I was going to be, in my opinion, good at it.
Because you've done it for years.
No, it was because I invited you.
Well, no, I get invited by people who are not so great. That's not the filter you think it is.
Invite somebody I knew to see something I thought wasn't good. Like, I don't like doing new material
in front of people
I know,
sure.
Because I'm like, they might think I don't have it. You know, I've reached a point where I'm like, people are like, oh, I have to see your movie. I'm like, you don't have to see my movie. It's just okay. We made the movies, watch them or don't. I'm okay now because you know me. You don't have to watch the damn
There's
movie.
a lot of content out there.
Sure.
An enormous amount. By the way, this strike is probably the best thing that's happened to the streamers. This is a hard reset for people people who have really overspent on content who can now just sit around and you can catch up on old content you haven't seen.
If only I had an app that would tell me what things to watch on the streaming service.
There you go.
Some way you could just keep a list.
It'd be a good idea, right? And you could follow somebody like Jay and see
awesome.
things.
There you go.
We'll put that on our list.
But Jay doesn't look at his phone.
He does not.
I'll
He
tell
has
you,
people look at his phone for him.
Yes, I will. Well, I'll tell you a story that actually changed how I view my phone. You know what I'm going to say?
No.
We were in Nate and Al's having breakfast, having a good time, chatting as we do, and we're there for like 2 hours. Do you remember this? Not once did you look at your phone. Literally didn't pull his phone out of his pocket the entire time. And I said, it's okay. You got people trying to reach you. You've got people who need you, who, you're directing television shows and movies and things. It's okay. And you're like, no, I like to be present in the moment.
It all goes back to my opinion with robots. I'm like, you don't get to interrupt the humans when we're talking. You just sit quietly and I'll look at you when I feel like
it's trying to tell your house is on fire, but you just sit there and listen to me.
But the fact that you, especially around your kids, let alone around me, were not looking at your phone, that was an eye-opening revelation to me. And it was like, I want to emulate this.
Right.
That sentence meant nothing to you. And I walked away going, oh my God, I'm going to change my relationship with this stupid device. And coming up, what better time to discuss an app Jay has created for that device, a very handy app called Vouch. Jay Chandrasekhar is here, Broken Lizard, Super Troopers, Quasi on Hulu, stand-up extraordinaire, and the creator of an app called Vouch, which you can find at vouchvault.com. Give me the elevator pitch for Vouch Vault.
I built an app with two guys, Eric Colbert and Eli Saz, and really, they did most of the building.
But it was your idea.
Here's what happened. Like 20-something years ago, Super Troopers was at the Sundance Film Festival, and we were kind of the bells of the ball. Like, we were the first film to sell, and nobody...
20 years ago, you were probably the only first of 6 films at the Sundance Film Festival. It's a different world now.
What do you mean first of 6 films?
It's just exploded. The Sundance thing has become so huge.
But we sold, and nobody else sold for a week, so the Variety kept writing about us every day.
Sure.
And we were just everyone, and we sold for a good amount of money. And everybody loved that movie there. Which
is why he doesn't have robots at his house. It's just all maids.
Based on the reaction to the audience, it was enthusiastic. And then the movie came out a year later, and we got a negative review in the paper I read every day, the New York Times, from A.O. Scott, who has since retired from movie review duties.
Yeah.
He's a book reviewer now. And I was like, who is this A.O. Scott? I said to myself. And I'm like, does he smoke weed? Does he like R-rated movies?
Right. Does he like midnight
Why
movies?
is his
the whole concept of what this movie is?
Why is his opinion of value? And then I looked at the Rotten Tomatoes score. We were 35% fresh. And I said, do you realize what happened in Park City, Utah? And you're going to give me this 35% fresh thing? And it steamed me up.
Yeah.
And I decided to get revenge. 15, 16 years later,
you carry a grudge.
You're goddamn right I do.
You don't want to
goddamn right I carry it.
It's in your trunk, isn't it?
That's right. And so I started outlining this idea for an app that would be a way to...
When you released Super Troopers, the smartphone didn't even exist.
No.
So you really had to carry that grudge for a long time.
The revenge schemes I had were some were physical, some were, involved kidnapping.
First, we have to create a smartphone. That's number one.
Right. So eventually the app, I was like, I'm going to build something to take Rotten Tomatoes down.
Okay.
Because at the end of
But Rotten Tomatoes is like, there's a critic's corner and there's a user's corner, right?
Yes. And yet the critics are the first people to see the film. And so when you go to a movie,
they
at least
see it, right?
You occasionally will look, let's see, we're on the fence. Let's see what the Rotten Tomatoes score, 35%. Well, we're not going to go. Yeah. How many millions of dollars does that cost us? Right? And so, and respect, by the way, too. And so I decided to create an app that was basically like I call it sort of like an Instagram of recommendations, right?
Decentralized recommendation engine.
Well, it's really, if you follow me and you know me and you can see I like Caddyshack, Blues Brothers, Trading Places, 48 Hours, you're like, okay. And I like this new movie, A Futile and Stupid Gesture, about the animal. You go, okay, I'd like all those other movies he saw.
He's got the same lowbrow taste I have.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I also like this show called Blackbird, which is about, this guy who is transferred from one prison into another to infiltrate a situation with a serial killer and get him to admit it. I'm like, I like that show. Yeah. And I like the band Wilco. And I like this restaurant in town called Kazunori.
Ate there yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, I like this cheeseburger in Chicago, whatever it is, right?
If you like this cheeseburger, this movie, and this band, you might like.
Well, we're trying as much as possible not to have computers send you recommendations. Because
he doesn't want algos. He wants people.
It steams me out.
No robots.
But if you could say, look, you and this German guy like the same movies. And so he also likes these German comedies that you don't know about. So whatever. Yeah. There you go. Like that's the kind of learning kind of things we're going to try to pursue. Right now we have about 10,000 people on it. Eventually, if we can build it big enough, we'll be able to see trends of movies, that are flowing, but also products, cups, instead of going on Amazon and reading these 5,000 reviews, 3,000 are great, 2,000 are okay. You don't know who wrote them. Some of the people are being paid, right?
That's a big problem.
Yeah.
So this is like, well, Jeff Parker likes this cup.
Yeah.
So I can message you and go, is it big? Is it fit in my hand? You go, yeah, it's great. Okay, boom, and I buy it. There's a link right there. You click on it, you buy it, and then we'll get a small taste.
I'm never writing you back about the cup.
You don't have to.
I love you, but I'm just going to...
You said you love the cup.
I'm going to send it to you from Amazon, and you can try it your own self.
That's fine.
Okay.
But you vouching for the cup means something to me, because I know you.
Okay.
But you likely would be a maven for things that you're passionate about. Like if he sent you a thing about mics and said, hey, we did that recording, and this mic sounded really good, what is it? You would be all over that because you're passionate about it.
I'll just send him a mic.
Great.
When that gets out on Vouch, you're fucked. Everybody's just going to be hitting you up. You're just sending out mics like crazy. Everyone wins here but you.
This is a friend. If he wants the mic, I'm going to send him the mic.
I want a mic.
What would you like?
Whatever mic you think is that you vouch for. Whatever mic you like.
The one in front of you is one of my favorites.
Perfect. I'll take it home with me.
I've had zillions of mics. You're asking the right guy. And this is a category where I can speak with some authority.
The stand. I like everything about this mic.
It's a really good idea.
A.O. Scott can have a thing on there, and my issue with him is like I've watched what he's written about other like classic modern comedies, and it's never good.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, what are you watching these for?
Yeah.
Why are you commenting?
You're just the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Is there a big Venn diagram overlap between New York Times readers and Super Troopers fans?
Look, we're educated filmmakers. We went to Colgate. We read books. We're smart. We smoke weed.
And you read the New York Times.
That's right. Every damn day.
Yeah.
I have a hard copy of it, every damn day.
That a human brings to him.
That's
not
right.
a robot.
You have a paper
copy? They throw it over my gate.
You have the printout of yesterday's website?
That's right.
Fantastic.
And then somebody catches it and reads it to him.
If you read the paper version of the New York Times, you will read more stories than you would online.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're like, okay, it's on the page. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you read it and you're like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's like when you go to the library and one thing takes you to the next. And
I suppose. I haven't been to the library in a while. I think you ultimately want to, like, you wouldn't walk up to a stranger on the street and say, hey, what movie should I see? Right? I mean, that's what A.O. Scott is to you.
Yeah. Sure. But if I read a lot of A.O. Scott reviews and I kind of agree with A.O. Scott, then maybe that's my vibe.
Sure. And then you should do that.
Right.
But you should be able to see all the other movies that he didn't like and be like, oh, he didn't like.
I see.
He didn't like Caddyshack. So why am I reading this?
Right. Nobody liked Caddyshack. Caddyshack made $4 when it came out.
That's in the book. It didn't get great.
Right?
It didn't get well reviewed. Yeah. Now, if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, because they revise everything, they're like, 90%. You're like, oh, really, Rotten Tomatoes?
Is that the user rating? The users over the years have raised that rating?
It's the critical rating.
They've revised
it.
They've looked at it.
Yeah. Because they're embarrassed.
Well, they should be.
Tastes change. Like you would ask the question of what's the overlap, the Venn diagram overlap of Super Trooper fans and New York Times. I bet you those circles are becoming more and more overlapped as time goes on.
100%.
Right?
So, has to be, right?
Of course that's going to change.
That's right.
But I've always, something I've always sort of questioned, again, starting from wine, who the fuck is Robert Parker? Why are you the guy that knows everything?
Exactly.
Like, knows?
That's my dad.
The reason is because, and I don't know how he got his job, but I mean, the reason these reviewers get their jobs is because they got an internship at the New York Times and they showed up on time and they brought coffee and they're like, hey, you want to review this movie?
Yeah,
you're a good writer.
Yeah,
boom, boom, boom. Suddenly you're the expert.
Yeah. Well, more importantly, when Robert B. Parker writes a review, he draws readers.
Sure.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is that he actually has a marquee value.
And yet it's quality of the opinion, and Robert Parker may have a good tongue, okay? But the quality of
I have no idea, but he draws readers.
Yeah, the quality of the opinion is of no use to me.
Yeah.
Like his opinion,
Exactly.
the only thing is of use to me is with wine is if I taste it and go, okay, it's good.
Of course.
But with a movie, if somebody doesn't like that kind of movie, why do I listen to it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the system we've had up until now.
Well, good news, technology and robots get to change that. not just robots, and I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek there. Not just like the AI, the algo giving you the shit, because I have my similar set of issues with that I think have been addressed in some regards and will get better. But just being able to connect with people, because you couldn't do that 30 years ago.
No.
Right? You couldn't connect with, you had to have a buddy, your friend from high school who you happen to have similar tastes, and you hope those still overlap. But you couldn't find rando guy in Florida. Now you can. Super easily.
Yeah. And, if for example, you vouch for like an app you like, right? I can look at it and I can click a button and it'll go into my, like a try vault for the future.
Yeah.
So on Friday, if I'm like, not an app, let's say it's a TV show. Friday, you're wondering what to watch. You're like, oh, look at my try vault. I got 25 things in there. And you're like, okay, I'll watch that thing now.
Do other people see what's in your Tri Vault?
No.
Your Tri Vault is just stuff that you're staging for when I get around to it, I'm going to check this out.
That's right. A book. It's like instead of these notes on your
wish list.
phone that are like these, and where's that note? Where's that
Yeah.
note? The BBC 3 comedy I'm supposed to see. It's sitting right there in the Vouch Vault. Try
Got
it.
You can pull it out. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
You sort of have to have it because all of us have, and you just alluded to it, some random scratch of paper somewhere on your phone, on a Post-it note, where you just write shit down and you hope that you remember to go back to look for it to find it when you want to watch something on Netflix or read something. Or I do it. I have a to-do list app. I've got a notes app. Random shit sprinkled everywhere.
And then text chains with friends.
Text chains are the worst. Sure. God, harvesting information out of that is so hard.
I know.
And you're trying to see, you're like, wait, who sent me the link? Did Jay send me the link?
Right.
I'm not sure. And you're trying to find
you
it.
can search on it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, search in iOS text is terrible. I'll remember links from 6 months ago. I'm pretty sure I know the group, and I still can't find it easily.
Yeah, I agree with that.
How long do the Vouch Vaults last?
Forever.
They put it on your tombstone.
Well, as long as we stay in business.
Okay, tell me about Quasi. I wanted to get to this.
Well, we wrote Quasi about when we were writing Super Troopers, we were simultaneously writing Quasi because
Super Troopers of 20 years
the
ago.
original one. Yeah, we thought we would be. We were so intent on being Python that we wrote a European era film, and we thought, well, we'll probably do that. And then eventually we learned about budgets and that you couldn't
really making those movies isn't free.
Yeah, you couldn't have a castle and the uniform, the outfit. We were like, oh no. And so we were able to make Super Troopers for $1 million too. So we made that, and we just every now and then we'd make money for.
Can I go back in time and give you the $1 million too?
Right, that person is richer.
Of course, of course,
a lot richer, even though they were really well done to begin with. So Quasi, every time we'd make money for a studio, they'd say, "What else you got?" And we'd hand them that, and they go, "And what else besides this do you have?" Because
what else do you have that's cheaper?
Yeah, that's right. And eventually, we made enough money for Searchlight on Super Troopers 2. They were like, "What else you got?" We showed them Quasi. They're like, "Oh, it's a period piece. We make period pieces all the time."
Yeah,
and we're like, "Yeah,
they do."
Like, okay, yeah, let's go. And so we said, "Really, you're going to give us money to make this? Incredible!" So they did.
They've just become your patron saint. It seems like Searchlight is your
Searchlight,
guys.
What we do for them is we make money for them so that they can make movies like Au Chocolat.
Does Au Chocolat make money? I have no idea.
I don't know. Like The French Prisoner. I'm making up titles, right? They like to make those kinds of movies.
Chocolat is not a made up title, but yeah.
The Belgian Schumann. You're like,
they just have
Fox Searchlight.
They just have diverse tastes.
Yeah, they like these kinds of movies. And by the way, they're good often. They're often good, but they're like, hey,
I think they have a tremendous batting.
Can you
batting
clowns
average.
make us some money so we can make the Belgian
pay
Schumann?
For the rest of this stuff?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, okay.
They love us for that.
I bet they do.
And we love them for that.
And you've got to be a pretty reliable hitter. They know when you go into the batter's box, they're probably going to get on base.
Yeah, we have a certain amount of money we make a movie for, and if we do that, the fans have shown up again and again.
Where's Super Troopers 3?
Got draft 11. So we've got to not write a couple more drafts during the strike, and then hopefully by the end of it, it'll be good.
How is this done? Do all 5 of you go into a room?
Yeah.
You don't do it over,
Sometimes we Zoom. Sometimes
you do.
we Zoom, but
because all 5 of you guys have got to be. You all have to be incredibly busy.
We are, but
you've got golf after all.
I do. We are busy, but still, if you're in the room, there's a little bit of a devotion to the original way we do it.
Well, however you all do it, we the fans hope you'll keep doing it because it's always so much fun. Jay Chandrasekhar, I cannot thank you enough for coming by.
It was fun.
Quasi, Vouch Vault, Mustache Tales, check them all out. We have to get out of here.
Enjoyed it.
But quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week, CJ?
Well, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Since we had Jay on the show, I had to be the last human being that's never seen Super Troopers to go watch it. I feel like the Amish kid explaining the internet to everybody else that already has it.
Sure.
Yeah. Super funny. The best part of that, and I mentioned this, I've got some friends that would like say lines to me that I never knew where they were from, and I feel like
Now
I just
you know the
unlocked-
reference.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, when people would just be yelling at me, "Bear fucker," I had no idea what that was for. Now I know. So man, am I the last guy to the party?
I'm also going to leave mine in tribute to Jay. Arrested Development. Jay directed 4 of the episodes, and they are fantastic with Ron Howard as the pitch-perfect narrator. It's a Riches to Rags story that won 6 Primetime Emmys and a Golden Globe. If you haven't seen Arrested Development, check it out on Netflix.
I've always loved Arrested. I just started watching it again from the beginning because it's been years since I've watched it. Totally still stands up.
That's the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense. A truly terrible podcast from The Awful Company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm Stu Little.
I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm Jay Chandrasekhar.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple and Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, our favorite Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Podcastindex.org. Special thanks once again to Jay Chandrasekhar for coming today.
Thank you.
Of course, and to our floor director, Jeff Veer.
I thought that was Jeff Veer in there. Is that why he brought his own mic?
That's why he
He's the only floor director who brings his own mic. That's just beyond me. Thanks, Jeff. You're really trying to outshow us with your own microphones. We'll be here every Thursday morning for more nonsense. Join us. The most inclusive brown supremacist I've ever met.